The first time I saw Warren was we were at BYU. I was staying in Heritage Hall's apartment. Our apartment was on the second floor. Um, our apartment had a large window in the kitchen that looked over the parking lot. So one day I got back to the apartment from classes, and one of my roommates, Joanne, was there, and she pulled me into the kitchen and said,
One of my cousins.
"Come see my cousin." And she pulled me into the kitchen and said, "Look," she pointed down to the parking lot, and there was this young man getting onto a motorcycle. And yes, he was cute. And Joanne said, "Isn't he cute? He's my cousin." And she just kept gushing about how cute he was. So he would periodically come over to the apartment to visit with Joanne. Now, back then, BYU was on a different schedule, and the end of the semester was at the end of January. So at the end of January that year, I was the only one of the roommates home, and there was a knock on the door, and it was Warren. He'd come to see Joanne. Well, Joanne wasn't there. And since I had just finished my last final, I was feeling crazy and weird. And so I asked him for a ride on his motorcycle. I had never been on a motorcycle, and that looked exciting. The crazy thing about the day was it was raining, but I didn't care. And so he took me on his motorcycle down to Carson's Market, where I bought some tape or twine or something because I was getting ready to mail a package home. Then he took me back to the apartment on the motorcycle. We visited for a few minutes, and then he left. And I thought, I sure wish I hadn't have acted so crazy and silly, because he is kind of cute and it'd be fun to date. Well, later that night, he called and he asked me out on a date to a BYU basketball game, which we went to. I can't remember how long after, but it was in the Smithfield House, I think, because that was before the Marriott Center
Could have
was
been.
there. And then we saw quite a bit of each other after that. So that was our first get acquainted experience. Now, do you want to tell your version?
My what? You want me to start before that?
No, you can start wherever.
My mother and my father were amazing to me. And so I started at 5 years old. They were training me to be conscious of God, going to church, serving, passing the sacrament, things like that. I'm trying to simplify this, but amazingly, she spent a lot of time, and I guess I have to go back to what I started and was aware of, is that her father had been killed by another farmer. And she, I'm sure she went bonkers. She was 5 years old when he died. And that whole family really went for each other to help each other. And my mother had some sisters, and I figured they started the whole thing of, we've got to do things together. And so she was telling me, how I should go to church, and how they were going to help me. I was going to learn how to pass the sacrament and things like that as I got older. And my mother just one time said something that just kind of rung a bell. She said, and I won't go into the details of why, because there was a background for it, but it wasn't an evil thing. So but she knew what had happened, and she said, now, if you ever have problems, just pray to Heavenly Father. 5 years old. I thought, okay, yeah, that's good. But we talked about other things variously going up to that point. And when I said the prayer, I was asking Heavenly Father to help me find a ball that my mother had given to me, because her father had been killed, she spent time with her mother. And she was brokenhearted because her father was, I never knew him. So this just kind of came together, but it started fitting in a way that my mother spent a lot of time talking to me. And my father, they got together and they told me what was important about life and going to church and things like that. And as they told me that, the thing that was simple was, if you need help, pray and ask Heavenly Father. So all of a sudden, hey, that's easy. And I really want to find that ball, because I don't want to tell my mother that I lost the ball. And so I went out and I prayed very, very clearly, talking to Heavenly Father. And I went through an explanation to him that I needed to find this ball. He didn't go into detail there, but I went into detail because I wanted to find it and make sure that I had the ball, because I didn't want her to not have the ball. So I went and said a prayer, And I did it in a very systematic way because I think my mother kind of set me up to a routine. And so I just very calmly I talked to Heavenly Father, and I knew that Heavenly Father would answer my prayer. And that's where it started for me. And so I went out to this place where the ball was, and I prayed to Heavenly Father very clearly. And I don't know why it took, because she talked to me that way, I guess. I systematically told him things, that I had lost this ball and it was important to me to get the ball. And so I went through looking for the ball, couldn't find it anywhere. This was in Salt Lake City, down by the River Jordan, is where we lived. And when I talked to him, I said, I've got to have that ball to give to my mother. And so that's the key that started it. But I was determined I was going to find it. And so I looked and I looked in this field. And there was a walkway, but the weeds had overgrown the walkway and everything. And it was down close to the river. And I knew he was going to tell me. And so I tried several times. And then I started walking down to the sidewalk, and going through my mind, and I thought, I've got to find that ball. And as I was standing there trying to figure out where that happened, the bushes moved. And out came the ball. Well, I knew who did it. Heavenly Father. So from that point, I changed my direction. And when I got to this, I went on a mission to go to Japan to talk to the Japanese. And so everything started there, and I based it on that. My companions, I kept trying to teach them, you've got to pray, you've got to pray. And some of the companions, I couldn't get through to them. And so when I was on my mission, I was following, and I was having a good experience baptizing, converting people. But I came home from that, and that's when I was in Kennewick, Washington at that time, and I went down. And so somehow somebody got my motorcycle down there, and I don't remember who did that. But I was using the motorcycle. And so it started there that that's where I was coming from. And as I went through, everything started fitting together. And I got attached to her as a friend. My cousin, she was younger, but her sister was Becky Reeve, and she was one that went on a mission. And they all kind of, it's amazing how the family, the Reeves and the Barneys and the McClellans, we did everything together when we did things. And and I'm sure that their attention and everything and the way they worked, I think my mother followed it, and so that I just went the same way. And so, in the fact that I I guess in a way I think that Heavenly Father must have had something to do with it because I prayed a lot of things. And so when I asked her to go dance, writing,
The first date was to a basketball game.
oh, the basketball game. So in the case of the basketball game, I really feel like Heavenly Father was helping me find the right person. And so I just started approaching from that way. And it took a while to, I think we got attached
Quickly. But we had a long engagement.
Yeah.
So from that first motorcycle ride to when we got married was a year and a half. So it's kind of long.
And as far as tying it in, it just grew from that. From when I was 5 years old, the time I came home from my mission, I focused a different way. And I after going out with her, I decided I had to ask her how to marry you.
Yeah, you asked me to marry you.
Yeah.
How did he?
Oh, we had been dating for quite a while. And we had started talking of marriage. And one day I said, I can't marry you. And he said, why? I said, because you haven't proposed. And so we were in the kitchen of my house in my home with my parents. And I turned to the cupboard to get something. When I turned back, he was on his knees and he proposed. So nothing romantic, but it did what was necessary. So that's it.
And that really did a lot to me from the start. but not until I met her. That took a process to change the direction, because but I just felt like somehow it had an influence by my cousins and everything, because she was a athletic girl, played basketball and stuff, and so
Not me, his cousin.
yeah, and so I don't know. It just I claim that Heavenly Father led me to there, because
And I think Heavenly Father arranged me to have Joanne, his cousin, as my roommate. I had never met her before I started at BYU. So we think the Lord brought us together. We got married on June 1st, 1964. So this year it will be 62 years. No funny stories.
About being engaged?
Not that I can think of. Went rather smoothly through that time. When we got engaged, I had wanted to get married at Christmas time, and my mother said no, because Christmas is too hectic of a time. So because of school, we had to wait till June.
and one was it I came over with my motorcycle to Seattle to see her.
We don't need to go into that.
Well, it's just a short story. I mean, I had that motorcycle, and I rode it from Kennewick to Seattle,
Over mountain passes.
over the mountain pass and stuff, and it was long ways. And went to your house, didn't I?
No, you went to your sister's house in Seattle.
Oh,
And you lived with Deanie and Arvin.